This morning I wanted to do a video on something which is a critical skill for idea stage founders, and yet many of them are horrible at it, and that's working with a delivery team, working with developers. There seems to be a general distrust that people have for anybody with a skill that they don't have, they don't understand. So mechanics, plumbers and developers, that somehow they might be ripping you off, and we need to get you past that. We did a bit of a study, and founders that had a good relationship with their developers got 30% more out of them in terms of productivity than founders that had a bad relationship with their developers. And in a world where you're skint, that 30% is hugely valuable. There are 4 skills you're going to need: good communication, the ability to prioritize, trust, and an understanding of what developers actually cost. Master those and things will get better. I'm going to start at the end with cost. There are 2 facts that you need to hold in your head. The first is that developers cost somewhere between 50 and 100 bucks an hour. And if you think that that's too much, get over it. The resource costs what the resource costs. The second thing is that nobody is going to do anything for free. Believe it or not, so many founders labor under the misapprehension that a developer is going to provide them with some free hours for the exposure because they want to, because they're kind-hearted. No, they have to earn a living. So, if you understand that nobody is going to work for free and that the resource has a cost, that's going to help. Incidentally, people that want people to work for free are called slave owners. They're evil people. Worse in my estimation than people that tell jogging anecdotes and show you their Strava runs. Don't be one of those people. Given that we know that every hour that we're going to spend is going to cost us money, and twice the money if we're sitting there with 2 developers, we're going to have to learn to prioritize. And there are 3 ways that we have to learn to prioritize. The first is you should only be building the things that you need to build to prove assumptions to yourself and to investors that will allow the project to continue. Nice to haves are right off the table. We are in the land of must haves and must haves alone. The second thing that we need to prioritize, or we need to learn to do, is to make sure that we have enough hours in our project at the end of the project for testing and fixing. This isn't going to be done for free. It's the same cost as build. So if you waste a lot of time up the front of your project, time is going to get shaved off the end, and that leads to a very unsatisfactory launch. The final thing we need to prioritize is development over our ego. So many founders have a wish image in their head of what a startup should look like. And part of that wish image is them telling great stories and theory to their team. That's costing you money. If you want to have a strategy meeting with 3 developers and a designer and some other people so that you can feel like a founder, that's costing you multiples of an hour. It's not free. Don't do it. Save it for when you've got employees and they all look up to you and they think you're brilliant. Which brings us on to communication. There is good communication and there is bad communication. Good communication takes the form of setting out what you want very, very clearly. Specification. When you're passing your idea over to developers, you need to explain to them why you're doing what you're doing. What do you need to test in an MVP? What's the outcome got to be? What are the critical success factors? You need to tell them who the users are going to be using that MVP, what the functional scope of that MVP is, and they're probably going to need a wireframe and some user flows and possibly even a database architecture. If all you're giving them is a 1-paragraph description and you're hoping from that they will magic up the application that you've got in your head, you're an idiot. Bad communication is wasting your developers' time by continually knocking on their door, sending them endless messages or asking for meetings that aren't necessary. You know, if you want to talk to a developer every day, that's costing you whatever it is, 50 or 100 bucks a day to do that, and it's eating into the project budget. Spend those hours on delivery. Everything should be spent on delivery. Don't waste time with bad communication. Which brings us on to trust. You need to work on the assumption that your developer knows how to build an app better than you do. If you communicate your requirements clearly to them and then trust them to deliver, they'll do a far better job than they do if you interfere with the process the whole way through. Let them get on and do what they do. You also need to learn to trust your customers. Learn when good enough is good enough. You know, somebody that spends 3 hours trying to get a drop-down box to look exactly like it did in their Figma file, it's just wasting time and energy. Your customers don't care. You know, it comes into priorities as well. You've got so little money to spend on your project. You don't want it wasted on fettling design. Spend it on getting functions away that you can put in the hands of your users and see if your product works, see if your business idea works. Don't waste your time on niff-naff and trivia. I'm going to talk about fixed prices because you're going to think, but I'm clever. I will work with an agency and I will ask for a fixed price for my project. What do you think happens when you mess a developer around throughout the project and he gets to the end of the budget that he set for the delivery? Do you think that that developer continues to work as well as he did before, or do you think you become somewhat of a lower priority, something that he's going to fit in between other things that he needs to do? You might think you're getting free hours, but actually what you're getting is hours that he can spare. For a successful project, you want to live within the budget that has been set. Even if it's a fixed price or it's an hour's budget, you should be trying to achieve coming in under budget with your developer. That way, happy developer, good product. And so we have the 4 things that we need to be able to do to work well with a developer. Number 1, prioritize. Spend those critical hours on the things that you need, not niff-naff and trivia. Number 2, communicate well. Tell your developers what you want and tell them once and tell them properly, and then leave them alone. Don't contact them every day. Don't change things, it costs you money. Number 3, trust. Let the developer do their job. They're good at it, and trust that your customers don't give a flying hoot about whether your drop-down box looks right or not. Get the functionality in their hands as soon as you possibly can. And finally, understand that every hour that you spend on a project, whether it's fixed priced, whether it's hours priced, costs you money. You don't want a developer to work for free because the second you try and make them, things go to hell. If you want to work with developers that are used to the quibbles of founders, you can come to Million Labs. Contact us at millionlabs.co.uk or send us an email at hello@millionlabs.co.uk. We will answer you. We're nice. Bye.